There are some people in history who just seem larger than life. And few embody the extremes of genius and flaw quite like Diego Armando Maradona. He was, all at once, a footballing god and a deeply, deeply human man. Today, we're going to try to unravel that story, the magic, the madness, and a legacy that's simply impossible to forget.
When the news broke that he had died, it felt like the world just stopped for a second. The shock was immense. From the streets of his native Buenos Aires to his adopted home of Naples, thousands poured out to mourn. It was a global outpouring of grief for a man who was always so much more than an athlete.
So, that's the big question, right? How does one person become all of these things at once? A global icon, a god to so many, and at the same time a source of nonstop controversy. To understand the legend, you have to understand the two forces that were always at war inside him, the divine and the more.
To really get it, we have to go right back to the beginning. Because like so many great myths, the story of Maradona starts in the most humble of places.
Picture this, a tiny kid born in 1960, growing up in a shanty town on the outskirts of Buenos Aires, Villa Fiorito, a place with, let's be honest, not a lot of hope. But from those dusty dirt pitches, a golden boy emerged. His talent with a football, it wasn't just good, it felt like a miracle, a gift from above that would be his ticket out.
And his rise was, well, just ridiculously fast. He turned pro at 15. By the time he was in his early 20s, he was already the most expensive player on the planet. But the move that really defined his story, the one that would forge him into a true hero, was his transfer to Napoli in 1984. You have to understand, Naples was this passionate, proud city that was constantly looked down on by the richer, more powerful north of Italy. So when Maradona arrived, they didn't just sign a great player. No, they embraced a symbol of their own defiance. He was their savior, and he absolutely reveled in that role. And the impact he had? It was immediate and nothing short of miraculous. Before Maradona, Napoli had never won the Italian league title. With him, they won it twice. They won a major European trophy. He didn't just join the team, he single-handedly lifted an entire city's hopes on his shoulders and delivered glory. Everything we've talked about so far, all of it, was building towards one single tournament. The absolute summit of his career, the moment he became truly immortal. The 1986 World Cup in Mexico. Now, this quarterfinal against England, this was so much more than a football match. The Falklands War had ended just 4 years earlier, and the wounds in Argentina were still incredibly raw. For the nation, this was a chance for some kind of symbolic revenge, and Maradona was their general on the field.
And in the span of just 4 minutes, he gave us the entire Maradona experience in a nutshell. First, the outrageous, illegal, but brilliant piece of cheating, the hand of God. Then, just moments later, an act of pure, divine genius, the goal of the century. It was the sinner and the saint, the cheat and the God, all in one game.
And when he was asked about that first goal, his explanation was pure Maradona. He didn't deny it, he didn't apologize, he owned it with this witty, defiant quote. That was him. He never ever ran from his rebellious streak. He celebrated it, and people loved him for it.
And just look at these numbers from the tournament. It's not just about those 2 goals. He either scored or assisted 10 of Argentina's 14 goals. That means he was directly involved in 71% of them. That's insane. He basically willed that team to World Cup victory. It's one of the greatest individual performances in the history of any sport, period.
But you know how these stories often go. When you fly that high, that close to the sun, the fall can be brutal. And the very same fire that drove him to greatness also held the seeds of his own destruction.
Right at the absolute height of his powers, it all started to unravel. In 1991, he failed a drug test. The whispers about a cocaine problem, an addiction that had started years before, were suddenly out in the open. The magic was beginning to fade. But the final, most tragic blow to his playing career came at the 1994 World Cup. He'd made a comeback, he looked fantastic, and then, boom. Expelled from the tournament for doping. His heartbroken cry that they cut my legs off became this gut-wrenching symbol of his downfall.
After his playing days were over, life was a constant, public battle. His addictions led to terrifying health scares. Heart attacks, hepatitis, you name it. He spent years in and out of rehab, most famously in Cuba. And all of it, the health crises, the family fights, the personal struggles, all played out under the harsh glare of the media.
But here's the thing. The story doesn't just end with tragedy. In a strange way, his struggles and his flaws only made his legend bigger, turning him into this incredibly powerful cultural and political symbol. I mean, look at all the different hats he wore after he finally hung up his boots. He tried coaching, even taking Argentina to a World Cup. He became a hugely outspoken political figure, and for his most devoted fans, he was, quite literally, a god. They even started a church for him, the Iglesia Maradoniana.
He absolutely never forgot where he came from. He proudly wore tattoos of Che Guevara and Fidel Castro, who he called a friend. He was always seen with leftist leaders across Latin America, always positioning himself as a voice for the poor and a thorn in the side of the establishment.
And that divine status, it's captured perfectly in this one nickname you see everywhere, D10S. It's brilliant, right? It blends Dios, the Spanish word for God, with his iconic number 10. It perfectly sums up how millions saw him. Not just a player with the number 10, but a god who wore it.
So in the end, you're left with this walking, talking paradox. A man who was a symbol of pure hope while battling his own despair. A divine, untouchable talent trapped inside a very mortal, fragile body. An icon who cheated, and a cheat who performed miracles.
So, what was he? A hero? A villain? A god? A mortal? The truth is, he was all of those things. And maybe that's the real point of his story. That our heroes don't have to be perfect. That sometimes the most incredible stories are found in that beautiful, chaotic, and fascinating struggle between the god and the mortal within us all.